Hello, everyone, and welcome to Deconstructor of Fun's This Week in Games TWIG 317, where we give you our game industry insider takes on the top gaming news stories each and every week. I'm Jen Donahoe. I fill the marketing and publishing role on the TWIG team. Today, we don't have Philip Black, but we do have
Eric Kress, head of strategy and investing.
Adam Telfer, product guy at Product Guy. Laura.
And Laura Trento, product girl at Products Girl.
the puzzle queen, as we like to call you. Here's what we got going on in the episode today. The latest on the TikTok and Marvel Snap roller coaster shutdowns, backup shutdowns, what's going on there. Annapurna gets a new head of games from Netflix. And then we're going to probably spend most of our time on Matthew Ball's State of Games 2025. Another State of Games is out today, which is from Sensor Tower. So I haven't had time to digest that. So maybe that's next week's topic, is going into that. So first, I just wanted to see, TV is fantastic. Adam, I know you're too busy playing games, but tell me, you guys are watching Severance on Apple TV, the most original mystery box show I've seen in a long time. They actually give homages to like old school PC gaming in it, if you're a fan. Anyone watching this?
Yeah, I actually have time for this. This is good. I like it.
I have no fucking idea what's going on right now with this fucking show. It's really, I should have watched the first season all over again.
It did do the recap at the start of the second season, and there was so much things.
You have to watch the whole first season over.
Yeah, you really do. There's just so many threads that I totally forgot about.
Well, so to market, the reason why I'm bringing this up, number one is I'm a nerd about it. Number two is the marketing for season 2 is stellar. They did this at Grand Central Station in New York. They set up this cube and they had all of the actors show up like they were going to work. And so basically it was like a fishbowl of you watching the Severance workers. They were actually at their computers, doing all of the things. So it was all of the cast, like Patricia Arquette, Adam Scott, all of them. So, dear marketers, I do think that there's something that we might be able to take from what Apple TV Plus is doing for marketing. These kind of stunt events can actually still work in today's world if you set it up and you market it right and you make sure you've got all the social behind it. They did something similar with Silo, which is the other great Apple TV show that just ended. Highly recommend that.
So what KPIs did this increase?
Yeah, exactly.
channeling my inner Phil immediately.
I think she's only mentioning this because Phil's not here, and so he can't throw up.
She can get away with it. Okay, yeah. But as a stunt thing, how do you actually leverage a stunt event to meaningfully improve marketing KPIs?
Press. Did you see the press and the impressions? All of that came
vanity
out of
metrics. Okay,
it's like pissing away
That's
money.
Not vanity.
Yeah. The New York Times editor came out. Wow, fabulous. She'll watch the show.
I challenge you to Google how much press this got. It was pretty stellar. The amount.
If Google Trends did a huge spike because of this event, totally, I could buy that. You start to drive serious awareness. It's a bunch of organic interest, but did it? That's what I want to know.
So this was a major event that everyone showed up for. I don't know if Apple TV released any of the metrics for the first season or the first episode. Oh, Cress is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love you dearly.
I know.
Right? Honestly.
I know.
But marketing people love to talk about these type of things because this is what keeps them going. These creative things. The thing that they were doing at EA that were really cool, right? But they just are not material. They have no material impact on what's happening with these things at all. It's just fun.
Disagree. I disagree that breaking into the zeitgeist, no one knew what Severance was until they started to go into season 2 and really put a lot of money behind it. Now everyone, it's like the buzz of the shows right now.
But in the case of the opportunity cost of an event like that versus spending more on digital, where you could see more tracking and more attributable.
Actual KPIs, yes.
Yeah, right. Like as a marketer, could you have spent more on digital spend and gotten further measurable audience, or was this actually a better use of that?
It's an and. It's not or. So what I hate is that you can't just do UA.
But marketing budgets are finite, right? So it is an or.
Philip is going to lose his goddamn mind listening to this thing.
You cannot just pump out UA and only expect that to be success. You need to take risks. You need to do different things. Try to break through the zeitgeist. Try to do something different. I don't understand why, very little money.
If it's not measurable, it's not worth doing. So there we go. Moving on.
But if I think of the media mix model of this show,
Jen on this.
Right? Like the media mix model of this show, did this show up? I'd love, I'm not pushing back against it because I would love to see those numbers to say, yes, this
there are no
caused
numbers.
Meaningful.
There are no numbers. There's never numbers for this type of thing. There aren't numbers.
But all right, I'm gonna just close this out because we always fight about this. And my point of view is you just can't do UA. You need a mix of things. Like, listen, you have to be reasonable about how much you spend on something like this. They made a box in Grand Central Station and had the cash show up for 15 minutes and it got everywhere. Seems like a pretty good ROI for the amount of impressions and awareness that they got through PR. Okay, all right. So let's go to Shilling. Mishka said that the supper club that he keeps promoting that people couldn't get into because he only had a few spots was an A+. Of course it was. These supper clubs are awesome. We're actually going to be doing more, hopefully one in LA coming up soon. We also released 3 more predictions for 2025. Mobile Marketing by John Wright, M&A by Invest Games, and for the first time ever, app predictions by Vin S, because I don't think there's any possible way for me to pronounce Vin's last name. He's ex-Zynga PM turn Reddit DOP. All right. So another shill, I just did a podcast with Alex Takei. Apologies to some of you. We had a little edit issues, so it's all fixed now. Go watch on YouTube. Go listen on your podcatcher of choice. Really fun conversation. She's a podcast host at Navic, and she's also over at Ruckus now. It's great to get the next generation of game voices out and to hear her story from Blizzard to Bitcraft to Ruckus. She's done more in her career, I think, than I did in 5 minutes. She's a rock star. And a huge fan of Deconstructor of Fun. Crushy says hi.
Yeah, she never stops.
She doesn't. Energizer Bunny on crack. Finally, my last shill is at GDC. This is kind of a public service announcement to save the date. So Stan from Beta Hat will be three-peating, sponsoring a pre-game get-together the Sunday before GDC starts. This is on March 16th. So please book your hotel and flights early. Come join us. We do have a location called the Southside Spirit House. So new location this year and details will come. So save the date, March 16th. Any corrections, folks?
No corrections. We got it all right.
Oh, shocking. Shocking that we did that.
Attention marketers, are you ready for an event that will supercharge your strategies and leave you talking it for months to come? On January 28th in San Francisco, AppsFlyer's Mama takes center stage as the must-attend event for marketers tackling the industry's toughest challenges, from privacy restrictions and signal loss issues to measuring omni-channel ROI and boosting LTV for high-value users. You'll gain actionable insights from the brightest minds in marketing. But Mama isn't just about learning. It's about connecting, sharing, and experiencing. It's an event people rave about for months before and after, and for good reasons. Side note, I've attended one of these events. It's goddamn amazing. Anyways, spaces are filling fast, so don't miss your chances to be part of this unforgettable day in January on 28th. Register now at appsflyer.com/mama, M-A-M-A. That's appsflyer.com/MAMA. Attention app and game developers. Are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before. Track global trends across app stores. Analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com.
All right, so I'm going to keep going. Laura, do you want to talk about the Switch too?
Super excited. Well, I feel like this isn't new at all because the leak that happened however many months ago for me was the announcement. The things that stuck out to me were two. One, they're getting rid of that slide and snap, and it looks like it's going to be magnetic Joy-Con controllers, which is great. I'm excited for that. And I believe if I looked at the video correctly, they're switching the location of the charging cable. Yeah, so it's going to go on top. Thank God, because there's nothing worse than you put it up to play, it's dying, and then you have this thing coming out the bottom, so you can't actually rest it anywhere because you have this cord coming out. So too excited about those two. We already knew it was going to be backwards compatible in most cases. I think they're upgrading this is touching on the Matthew Ball presentation a bit, but I think they're upgrading the GPU and there is some of the chips getting upgraded. So it's going to be a bit more powerful. I don't think it's going to be, PS5 and a Nintendo hardware, but I'm excited. I'm going to buy one. Let's just call a spade. I'm definitely going to get one.
I think there were really no surprises here. I think people were a little bit disappointed that there wasn't as many specs announced, but I don't think Nintendo really gives a shit about specs, and the people that need to know the specs, which are the developers, but there are no software announced. I mean, they showcased some Mario Kart, I guess, on the announcement on the device, but nothing else. But again, they confirmed all the things that I've been saying for the last 2 years, is that, this is basically an iPhone model where it's just an upgraded version of the Switch with better components, bigger screen, clearly a bigger device, basically the same functionality, which makes shareholders happy because there's less risk of not being successful.
This was definitely the least exciting Nintendo announcement ever. Everything was just, immediately checklist. We've already done this stuff. Yeah. Move past.
Yeah, they just threw out a trailer. They're like, here you go. Here's a trailer. And
the sucky part is they said that they are not really talking about it until April now, right?
Oh. Yeah.
That was
a direct.
Yeah, a direct in April, which that's fine, right? We'll see. Oh, they also GTA on another announced GTA. There is definitely rumors that there's a trailer coming for a GTA in the next week or so.
Do we think they're still on track for fall 25?
Impossible to know. What I do know is they're still gutting for it, but there's still risk. But the fact that they're throwing out a trailer would be a good indication.
Got it. Okay, so the other big news this weekend, especially in the US, well, primarily in the US, was that TikTok and therefore also Marvel Snap went down and went dark. So if you're not familiar with the whole situation, on January 18th, TikTok and other ByteDance-owned apps, including Marvel Snap, were removed from the US app stores due to a federal ban targeting ByteDance. This led to a 2-day outage for Marvel Snap, during which players were unable to access the game. As of January 21st, Marvel Snap is back online in the US, although it remains unavailable to download on the App Store and the Google Play Store. By the way, this is true for also the Moonton games.
Really?
So yeah, Mobile Legends Bang Bang is also hurt by this as well, because remember, I don't know if you remember, actually, ByteDance works with them or bought them. So to prevent future disruptions, developer Second Dinner plans to bring more services in-house and partner with a new publisher. So Ben Brode did a tweet that actually, I think this was a Blue Sky post, not tweet, but same idea. Woo, Marvel Snap is back online in the US, but make sure that this never happens again. We're working to bring more services in-house and partner with a new publisher. This is the start of a new era for Marvel Snap. Ironically, okay, maybe not ironically at all, the head of marketing, Alon, posted a job opening for director of growth.
Yeah, I saw that.
If you're interested, go on our jobs channel and check it out, or go on LinkedIn. So this is just a fascinating, I feel so bad for Marvel Snap. Just the splash damage on them from the whole thing was kind of sad.
There was a scream that came out of my daughter when it went down. Literally, I could hear it across. It was crazy, right? So I lived through the pain, I suppose. But I don't want to get political on this, but it doesn't seem that Trump really has the authority to do what he did. Like, this has been legislated against.
Yeah.
Like, the House and the Senate approved this thing. So it's not over, right? I didn't know that you actually can't download both TikTok or Marvel Snap from the store. Ultimately, that likely will make it break. It's really fascinating.
It's fascinating. It is painful when there needs to be an update, right? So if you have it, the service is live. But if there needs to be an update, yeah, you're screwed.
Apple and Google are not putting themselves out there and risking anything, right?
Nope.
At this point. So.
Nope.
I don't think they particularly like TikTok either, right? Really.
Well, the fines were insane. I think if I remember correctly reading about it, it was like for every user that is not in compliance, it was like $5,000 per user per something or other. So it's 150 million users. It's kind of pricey.
Yeah. The other fun, interesting talk is what happens to all of TikTok's ad revenue, which is like, I don't know, between 15 and $23 billion a year. And so, Zuckerberg's over there, and what's the Snap guy? They're all like, Evan Spiegel, they're all like, oh, we'll take some of that ad revenue. So if you're in games marketing right now, you're also hurting because anything you had on TikTok, you had to reallocate and try to go to Meta, try to go to, the other folks. So again, app lovin's probably loving this.
They should do more Grand Central events then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Divert all that TikTok
Fuck yeah,
spend.
they should.
That'll solve all their problems.
Fuck yes. I'm glad I got you on board, Adam.
All right. Leanne Loom, the ex-head of Netflix Games, third-party. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
She landed very quickly at Annapurna Games, in which she is now the head of games. It feels like most likely this was put into motion a while ago. So she clearly knew that things were not going well at Netflix for her. Annapurna Games basically focuses on indie type games. So it feels like a pretty good fit given her background. I don't know. Annapurna Pictures created like Her, which I really like that movie. Master, Zero Dark 30. And kind of the interactive division focuses on the same type of indie style games with their artistic focus, right? So some of the games that they've done before, which I've never heard of any of these except for Outer Wilds, frankly, but Edith Finch, Outer Wilds, Stray, the PC port of Journey, and Neon White. So clearly smaller indie style games. So I wish her the best of luck, right? With her new venture. Maybe product strategy is going to make more sense at Annapurna than it did at Netflix.
So is this the team that basically had the layoffs or the major restructuring in September, and then they rebuilt? Now they're rebuilding under Leanne.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is the heavy drama that happened in September where the entire team quit and left, and so there's a lot of rebuilding going on there.
Yeah, this seems like a rebuild operation, especially like unfortunately coming out of the difficulty of Netflix and then going to a rebuild at Annapurna.
I knew there was something about this, but do they still have any teams to make games? Or
well, it's all like publishing, so it's working with second and third party. But the publishing team is what some of those folks. I mean, I don't know all the details, so I probably shouldn't talk too much, but I think some of them either came back or they were rebuilding the publishing team.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, Annapurna is a publishing organization that works with third party maybe some second, but a lot of third party folks.
It's an interactive division of a company that's focused on making movies, right? So
yes,
that isn't necessarily a good place to be as a game.
This is very much like an indie publisher, right? Like indie movies, indie publisher.
Yeah.
Right. Correct. And then what they're trying to do as well is take some of the IP and license it on the entertainment side. And so it's actually run by Megan Ellison of Ellison fame. So another.
Oh, so some super rich girl is like starting her like pet project. Oh, that's not a good sign either.
She's had it for a while.
You mean Larry Ellison's daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I've heard lots of stories about her. She grew up in San Francisco. She's a piece of work.
Okay. What I wanted to ask you is almost shifting gears to our favorite topic of Netflix. So did you see the earnings report yesterday where they crushed it? They're up stock is up like 12%. And they actually came out and said a little bit about the future of Netflix games. So our buddy Neil Long from mobilegamer.biz did an article this morning. It was great. So let me just actually read some of it to you. Netflix has stated that it's refining, in quotes, refining its games offering by focusing on narrative, party, kids, and known IP games as it pushes more into TV-based cloud gaming. As part of its blowout Q4 earnings, Netflix said that Squid Games Unleashed is on pace to be its most downloaded game to date. This, it's what we've been talking about.
It's what we've been saying. Narrative games work for them.
I want to go back. I wish I had the time to go back and pull me pitching kids in Netflix like last year or something. I'm like, why aren't they doing kids?
Yeah, but like, what size of business is this? I don't want to spiral on this.
It's not.
Size of business is this?
Dude, this makes total sense, though. What the fuck
it
were they
makes sense,
doing all
but
this
it's
time?
Small. Okay.
No, but I mean, look, it's like percentages of people staying on the service, this is staying in your lane. Like, what the fuck were they doing $50 million download games in AAA?
Yeah, let's double down on that.
Sense.
This is the right strategy. It might be a smaller lift, but it's in their lane. They can execute on this. I like
they
that.
can, and they well, I don't know if they will, but they can.
Yeah, so they actually labeled Flickstock a buy. It shot up. But let's pivot to something. I actually have a question. Maybe they're not in their lane. I don't know. Laura, what do you think? Talk to us about Candy Crush Solitaire.
Ooh, I'm trying to think of an answer. Are they in their lane? Maybe not, but I don't think they should stay in their lane. I think this is a good move for them. So way back when, in the however long ago, we'd covered Candy Crush IP kind of branching out into different types of games. So they had taken basically a skeleton meta and started experimenting with different cores. And they had a couple soft launch or beta tests. And one was Candy Crush 3D, Candy Crush Blast, and then Candy Crush Solitaire. Well, it looks like of those three, Candy Crush Solitaire is going for worldwide release February 6th. It's been in tests for about a year. And it's interesting. I mean, my first question is, this isn't the first company that has started branching out into Solitaire. That's more of an interesting question for me. So what is drawing people to the Solitaire space? Because it's not like a major player in the casual space. When I looked at it overall by downloads and revenue, compared to like Match and some of the larger, the super saturated cores, I mean, it's like less than 1% of downloads and 2% of revenue of the casual market as of all of 2024. So it's small. And I had a look at what the revenue change over time was. So year over year, it was growing from 2017 to 2023, but then it's kind of been shrinking over the last year. I feel like there's two things that people think about. They're like, okay, wow, this is an opportunity. If we can go and create a new offering for the Solitaire market, there's appetite, there's some demand, there's people, or it scares people off. It looks like here, people are getting excited and they're like, oh, this is an area I can actually dig into. I'd say there's two big players. One is Tiki, which GSN made that Scopely acquired. And the other, I mean, the biggest game in Solitaire is Playtika's Grand Harvest. I mean, that's kind of mopping the floor with the rest. That was actually an acquisition in 2018 of Super Treat, which was the original developer of Grand Harvest. But why I think this is interesting is you have, I don't know if you all have seen, but Metacore is planning to release Grandma's Solitaire Secrets. So Metacore, I mean, so those ads on TikTok, I mean, the problem with that is I watched it. I'm like, oh, this must be a new anime show or something, or a new cartoons show. No, it's just really good ads. And the other one is Playerix came out with Fish'em Solitaire too. So I feel like there's some secret sauce here that people think they have that it's drawing kind of these big players in the casual space to be like, we need to make a Solitaire game.
But what do you think has capped the Solitaire space in the past that people think now they can grow past it?
I am not sure. So I played Grand Harvest and I played a little bit of Tiki. I do not know Solitaire as well as I know Match 3. There's not huge waves of differentiation I've seen, at least between Grand Harvest and, for example, the Candy Crush. Because I thought the version would have come out with something entirely different. Full disclosure, they did not release in the US or Australia, so I have not been able to play the game. I've been watching YouTube videos, but they're very similar. So I thought it would have come out with another, like something a little bit different. They put kind of like the charm you find in Candy Crush from everything, like the obstacles and the boosters and kind of that king gameplay charm that you would expect. That's all in there. They have events. That all makes sense. But I haven't watched enough videos yet, or I haven't seen anything that's sweepingly different from what's in the market so far. So it's kind of a question mark for me, but it's just the beginning, right? So we'll see what they come out with.
Yeah, I'd love to try to figure out how to answer that question, because it just seems so odd to me that there's been this growth of a number of different genres in the casual space, like Match Factory being like, is this really the next thing? Is mixing and sorting now with Magic Sort the new thing? Is Solitaire the new thing? And even for Candy Crush, like they obviously did not succeed with Candy Crush going and replicating itself within Match 3. Why go to these significantly smaller subgenres? And what do they see that could make these subgenres all of a sudden explode? Obviously, we've seen it. Like Merge 2 is popping off right now, right? So it's not like genres are set in stone and they never move, but somebody's got to have a good idea of how to break these subgenres open.
But see, if you're going to break the subgenre open, I would come with a completely different offering. That's the part that is a question mark for me, because so far the gameplay is very similar of what already exists. The only other thing I found, and I think this is relatively small, but everyone's talking about it's a new game. Yes, I'm super excited, love new games. What's been a little bit more on the quiet is they're actually launching in alternative native app stores. So it's available on Amazon App Store, Samsung Galaxy Store, Huawei Apps Gallery.
Yeah, that's not a strategy.
It's not a strategy. I was like, maybe.
No.
It's a shotgun blast.
No.
What is that? Okay.
That's just
Well, I mean, that's a testimony to the demographic, right? The 60-year-old lady that still owns a fucking piece of shit
Kindle
Amazon
Fire
device.
from 10 years ago.
Exactly. All right, my hot take on this is what? A couple things. One is that there are a shit ton of solitaire games out there, right? And none of them made any money really over the years, with the exception of the two that I think have been mentioned, is the Solitaire Grand Harvest and the Tri-Peaks game, the Tiki Solitaire. Like all the rest are complete trash in terms of monetization. Like I think they do decently, and I think they're all ads based, right? Most of them, right? So they're probably making some decent money on ads. On the revenue per install, like they're insane. Whatever they do in Grand Harvest is great, but the rest of them don't make that much money.
No.
But anyway, there's a lot of ad stuff going on as well, which I think makes sense for a game like Solitaire. And then the beta on this game, if you actually look at the Canada and the Germany numbers, it's not great. Honestly, it's good, but I think actually their puzzle games monetize a shit ton better, right? But it's good enough, I think, for Candy Crush brand to scale it, but I don't know if it's really good enough to scale outside of Candy Crush. My point is that if they can replicate what Grand Harvest has done from a perspective of monetization, then this is going to be a home run for them. But otherwise, there's really no other good comps out there in terms of actually making money that's even closely material to the King group, right? So
the assumption here has to be that CPI is significantly lower in this space,
Yeah,
that
but
they can grow
that's
it, right?
that's what
But
I was
then
just
how
going to
much
say
can
is
that
I don't think it
scale,
is.
you can't look, even with Candy Crush brand, dude, you can't scale a game that makes only, I think it's 60 cent RPI, right? Revenue per install. It's just impossible, and these are tier 1 type countries.
Where I wanted to pop in on that was exactly where you're going, Adam, which is the CPIs. So what I'm worried about for them is Solitaire is a commodity. It's everywhere. There are free versions. It's on, all the subscription platforms. But the thing that worries me for them is there's a ton of pay for cash versions of Solitaire. And when you think about that social casino kind of version of the gameplay, and again, you're targeting almost a very similar player and consumer, why wouldn't you do the play for cash version? And then King has to compete with ad space with those kinds of games for a very similar gameplay. So I'm worried, Crest, to your point, with a low revenue per download, a low ARPU, might be high CPIs, but I don't know. They're launching it. So they must see something that we don't see. I just worry about it scaling. I worry about the long-term effect of
I feel like that's always a bad omen. When on this podcast, we're like, they must see something we don't see. And then all of a sudden they launched and they're like, oh, wait,
pops.
no,
Yeah,
they saw it
like,
too.
Yeah, like the Supercell game, yeah.
The pay-to-win apps. I cannot figure out how they work because I downloaded one. They're all over TikTok. I don't know if you've been on TikTok, but it's every 3 videos almost is an ad. And I would say every 10 videos is an ad for real cash, solitaire, bingo, whatever games.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I downloaded one. They actually take the credit card in the app. And I can't figure out how they bypass they must not pay the 30% fee. Like, I don't understand how it works or how they're able, literally, you put your credit card in. I didn't actually do it. I was worried something would happen, but I don't know how they're just going around. Like, they found a loophole. Maybe they found a loophole.
No, I think that's because Apple and Google don't want anything to do with those games. They don't want to be responsible.
They don't even review them when they go in the store.
No.
At one of these Apps Flyer dinners, I was sitting next to a guy from Fanatics who does the shirts, but they also have a whole division that does like FanDuel or something. And Brian Murphy came over, who is the Apps Flyer guy, and he's like, Jen, you don't even know the hell that is this side of gaming, this, pay to play or play to win cash side of gaming. So maybe that's a podcast I'll do later on, is go into this, because I'm a little bit fascinated, but I just feel dirty. I feel
They
gross.
always have the best parties at GDC. That's always that's the part that scares me. It's like
the skills, like
Yeah,
which team?
Yeah. This play for cash bullshit.
It's dirty business. It's worse than the scums at the casinos. It's like, it's bad. It's really bad. Sorry, guys, who's out there.
Yeah.
That is like the low of the low.
All right, let's keep going. Bonfire Studios, Cress. What happened?
Yeah, so Bonfire Studios, after 8 years, finally, Rob Pardo, who is lead designer of WoW, has announced that their game is going into early alpha. They've done Friends and Family for a while. I actually read through the press release, and they would not be very specific on what this game actually is. It's a multiplayer action game, we know, but it was like he was being very odd about describing it. So he basically said it was like a unique combat style. It wasn't a shooter, but it wasn't a point and click. And they built it for the controller from the beginning. That actually is very, very smart. And again, they've been doing Friends and Family testing up to this point, but they're opening it up to a broader audience, of which I signed up. If you guys don't know what this company is, it was founded in 2016. And then it was funded by A16Z and Riot in 2018 for a cool 25 mil. Oof. My sense is that they will likely are announcing this to get more money in order to publish this game, if I were to guess, and to also finish this game. Again, to be clear, this is a terrible VC investment, a full stop. Like, A16Z is not going to make any money on this, just to be clear. I have to iterate that. It makes actually a lot of sense for strategic like Riot if they could help publish it, but I don't think they're going to be publishing it. I'm not really too sure.
Yeah, I don't think Riot's in that game anymore. See above Leanne Loom and Riot Forge and where
right. I forgot to mention that.
Where that went.
Well, ironic. Yeah, actually, this comes full circle because
Yeah.
Leanne was actually part responsible for the third-party publishing arm at Riot, where they were leveraging their IPs and hiring third-party, second-party teams to build games for that. And that was shut down
Yes.
in 2024.
Oh, yeah, last year. Yeah. It was called Riot Forge. Yes.
Riot Forge, correct. So, anywho, I am excited to see what Rob Pardo comes out with after all this time. That's a long fucking time.
How does he make a game that big with 25 million in 8 years?
I think they only have like 60 or 70 people.
Okay, so
There's
it's
no
a very,
free
very
coffee.
small team. Yeah,
They're all loaded, I'm sure, because of the early WoW days. So perhaps they're not,
everyone's just not getting paid. Everyone gets paid in
just,
hair.
It's a
and
labor of
smoke.
love. They're labor of love.
Wow, 8 years of love is a lot. Wow.
I don't know. I could call some people and get some more color as to what's going on down there,
Yeah.
but I don't want to throw shade.
Sadly, I don't know if there's a game that's been in development for multiple years like that has seen success.
No.
I'm thinking of Concord. I'm thinking of, a lot of these
Stormgate.
folks. Just, and we'll talk about it in the Matthew Ball thing. The world has evolved in the last, it has like exponentially evolved. And if you were caught in the middle of this, I think it's going to be tough for you because play is so different now. Anyway, let's go to Huuuge.
On the bad news, Huuuge Games cuts 29% of its workforce. That is quite a bit of people, about 122 for them. This is the Polish-based mobile game developer. And unfortunately, they shut down their Netherlands and Finland studios, which, sorry to the Finns. This has been a tumultuous time for Huuuge, to say the least. But this is it looks like hopefully this will be the end of it and they will come back more stronger. Who knows? But pretty sad.
I hope we are not on track to grow layoffs this year, but
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was 14,000, I think, ish last year. So let's hope that it's less. Okay, let's get into our big topic that Adam Telfer
more positive
made us
news.
read. Is it positive?
No, it's
Certainly
not. Sorry.
not.
Okay, let's get into Matthew Ball's State of the Market.
I guess, wait, for the record, I want to bring Matthew Ball back from the 2021 days where he was fucking bullish as fuck and he was like pontificating nonsense around the world. I want to bring that guy back, not this guy. This guy's an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what do you mean, asshole?
I think he's basically the same as us. Same level of pessimism.
I understand. No, he's an asshole just like me. But like, he was such a nice guy before, and now what's changed? It was only like a couple years ago. What happened, Mr. Ball?
The same thing as the industry.
Let's see what happened to the industry over the last few years that has changed his perspective. The crazy thing was, it was 220 slides. Oh my God. This was so much information.
He doesn't understand brevity at all.
No.
Him and Yoast.
Yeah. And it's very like one graph, one slide. Here's your bullets, move forward type of structure, right? But it was amazing. Like, here's all 220 slides on the screen right now. Before we go into full-on criticism mode and argue over the details, it is important for us to say that this was amazing work. Being able to pull together all of these data points together, weave together a narrative that we've all felt. And we are going to criticize in terms of the level of calibration of pessimism versus optimism, but it's very, very impressive work.
The way that he also bucketed some of the insights, I thought was really incredibly well done to kind of pull all of those things together, where he bucketed like, hey, here's why everything was successful. Mobile, free to play, live service, cross-platform, battle royale, battle pass, UGC, social gaming, social game services, COVID boost.
Like all of these things were happening at once. So obviously we could see some pretty amazing growth.
You're like, woo! And then he does a good job of, however, here's all the shit that's coming. And I'm sure you're going to get into that. Sorry, I probably stole your thunder.
No worries. But yeah, that is the key point of the article, or of the PDF, right? Is that gaming's meteoric rise has stalled. The growth levers that we've seen work, as you just listed, over the last 10 years have all dried up. And Matthew now argues that in order to see growth, we need new ones. He has some new ideas about what they could be. And I think that's where Kress is going to flip the table if he hasn't already. But specifically, that also the assumption that it was all COVID, that this contraction that we've been feeling is COVID, isn't the whole story and goes through a lot of the other different impacts that come from it. Why are you so pissed already, Eric? I'm on like slide 2.
This dude said that the metaverse was going to be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity that would grow the gaming business beyond all recognition. And now, 2 years later, he's coming up with this bullshit, which is what I was saying 2 years ago.
Kress, if we go back into your history, have you ever made a bad prediction?
No.
Kress GPT.
Yes, you have.
Never. You totally have.
Kress, if I go talk to Kress in 2009, what did he say about the mobile gaming industry?
I was always about growth. What are you talking about? No.
Yeah.
No, on a market predictions, I've actually been reasonably good. I mean,
okay.
I'll admit that the mobile business has definitely gotten actually better than I expected quicker because of Apple's unwillingness to actually do anything about privacy because they don't really give a shit about privacy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think
we both agree Matthew Ball got his predictions wrong on the metaverse.
The guy should stay in his fucking lane, dude. He's a researcher.
But is this now a
Do
better
not
lane?
don't predict, research. Research history. That's it. That's all he can do.
But what good is research if you're not making a prediction of what's to come?
Because he doesn't understand gaming. Like, he's not a gaming person at all, right? He's a researcher. He's an intellect.
Well, I do find it interesting when he's applying other industries' growth patterns and other industries' learnings to gaming. I find that interesting.
Correct. Especially with social video, TikTok, YouTube.
I think that is a different perspective than most of the analysts, including ourselves, would be talking about.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But again, Deck is amazing work. If you haven't seen it yet, please at least skim through it since the data insights are amazing. My take overall here is that I think he's evaluating our current growth levers rather bleakly, like very binary, saying that they're completely in the shitter, rather than saying there's a bit more nuance to that, and evaluating our future growth levers with more positivity than I would associate with them. So first, let's kind of go through some really interesting points that I pulled out. First one around like talking about that bleakness of the current growth drivers, belief that basically mobile is dead post IDFA with all genres locked up, which I just think is an overly bleak perspective on mobile, especially where we're actually seeing mobile actually opening up a little bit right now. We should be a little bit more optimistic about mobile versus where we were 2 years ago. Next was VR expectations. I think this was my favorite graph because I live in forecast land a lot. And this is just such an amazing perspective of like how people's exponential growth patterns have slowly come down over time. You go, Eric.
Okay. All right. So this is funny because I actually tried to do this graph myself. And I went down this rabbit hole for like hours trying to collect this information, but no one keeps shit that is completely fucked public anymore, right? So I'm more power to him that he found all this data to put this graph together. But I want to say that Matthew Ball was one of the reasons that these forecasts were completely out of the fucking world, right? Because he threw this thing out there and was like doing a fucking world tour presenting this bullshit about the metaverse and what it meant. And that's how these VR type forecasts, AR, VR, went to the moon, right? So he is like one.
Was that in 2016 and 2017? He was already pushing.
I mean, look,
forecasts?
The narrative was getting pushed at that point, right? And so, like, I don't know how much he was involved then, but he certainly was involved in 2020 and 2021, right? Where these forecasters were ridiculous. And I was saying that then, right? And I was actually throwing shade at Newzoo. I don't even think they were even responsible for these bullshit predictions, right? So it's like, how much responsibility does he have for the frothiness of this bullshit, you know? Like, it never made sense then. Never made sense then. The day they announced what the VR was from Facebook, it was never going to be what people suggested it was going to be, right? It was obvious, even to the people at Facebook, right? Like they even knew.
The other graph that was fun for me was that P&L from Meta of just the deep red line going into negative 16 billion spend every single year.
That was pretty
But
fun.
someone who does look at forecasts all the time and understands, it's really, really interesting when you see these markets that everybody's bullish on, and you just watch the forecast trying to keep that hockey stick where every single year that hockey stick just shifts a little bit to the right.
Since we're kind of on this like fake forecast, and Phil loves this stuff, right? Like the gathering of all of the bad predictions. So this was the same idea, just applied to the overall industry. And I'm glad that you pulled the VR chart, which looks a lot worse than this one, but it's the same thing where, you know, the growth trajectory, just, we have to realize that even though we love all of these folks, the Newzoos, the Sensor Towers, the IGGs, you know, everyone's still like making shit up. And Cress, I think you had a great point, is when people are out there, you know, cheerleading one thing or the other, that kind of gets these folks excited. And then we all make our forecast and business projections based on it. And then we are all like, oh shit.
Just one thing.
Just got screwed.
This is IDC, not IDG. I'm gonna defend Yoshio.
This specific one?
That it's IDC.
Yeah,
it's not
Yoshio
IDG.
would never have thrown a forecast like this together. That's
No.
bullshit. That's IDC shit. That's like the PwC guys. That's like, you know, people that don't know shit about games that are writing this bullshit. So I want to be clear. Matthew Ball wrote his book in 2022. 2022. Like, that was like a couple years ago, okay? Like, you know, like, and he was super bullish. And the shit that he wrote about the metaverse was so ridiculous then. I'll read it to you if you want to hear it. It's like unbelievable, like how off he was. And the biggest thing is the interoperability bullshit, which never was going to work. But the economic potential of a multi-trillion-dollar people. He was out there at A16Z. He was out there at like conferences, you know, for tech. Like, he was just throwing this shit out there. Like, it was true. It was crazy, dude. And he was getting paid gajillions of dollars. Like, his rate card was so insane back then. You know, it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, look, I said it then. I'm saying it now. His predictions were ridiculous. And like, I don't know. You can't just let him off the hook because he actually wrote an actually decent piece on this stuff, you know? So anyway, whatever.
Everyone got way too excited after seeing the Ready Player One movie. And I feel like we've been so starved for new platforms and new tech that it's so exciting because it has promise and this is what it could be. And I mean,
he said the metaverse was the next internet. The metaverse was the next internet. What? What are we talking about? Right? I mean, come on. This whole book was predicated on this bullshit, Like, come on. This is obscene.
Well, to be fair, in this version, VR metaverse is like a drop in the ocean.
I prefer
2
this
years
Matthew
ago.
Ball. I prefer this Matthew Ball than 2 years ago. I am glad that he has learned, and I'm glad that he's still learning about the games industry. I think this is good.
Kick-ass live ops need kick-ass tools. That's where Heroic Labs comes in. They just released a massive update to their Satori live ops platform. And having done my research, I can say with confidence that it's second to none. In a single product, you get everything you need, including event capture, player segmentation, feature flags, remote configuration, A/B testing, experimentation, live events calendar, messaging, retention graphing, analytics, and so much more. If you're serious about running live services in a game, get serious about the tools you use. Connect with Heroic Labs and make some serious cheese with your live ops.
Step into the future of game monetization with Xsolla, the premier partner for game developers seeking to expand their reach and revenue. Xsolla provides a robust suite of tools designed to enhance user acquisition, manage subscriptions, and streamline payment solutions worldwide. Unlock new markets and maximize profitability through their customized, secure payment architecture and dedicated support team. Xsolla, powering game developers to achieve global success.
All right, what else was in there? Because there's a lot of other topics. Let's get off triggering
this
metaverse.
is just amazing data consolidated together, being able to pull up data points that we knew existed but have fallen by the wayside, right? So great graphs on the consolidation of Gen 9 versus Gen 8 in terms of being down generation over generation on console, that a large percentage of Steam's growth has come from China. We've talked about it on this podcast, but being able to actually really see that and quantify that in graphs has been great to see. The rising dominance of Chinese firms, and I think the rising isolation of APAC markets. So the data points from there, 42% of worldwide spending growth since 2011 has gone to Chinese developers. 80 to 85% of content spend in China is on Chinese-made games, which is growing from 60% in 2011. And that Chinese game companies are growing their outside of China revenue from less than 1% in 2011 to 13%.
I think that's the biggest point.
Yeah, all the signals that China is just doing a great job.
I've built slides that say exactly this. It's actually even more egregious. If you look at all of Asia, even Japan and Korea, it's like 85 to 95% of the revenue, depending on the territory, is from other Asian developers, right?
Yeah.
US developers and European developers don't do fuck all in Asia, right? It's not an open market, both culturally as well as economically for Western markets. So yes, 100% agree with that sentiment.
Well, and now I think the other big thing is they're coming here. So Marvel Rivals and NetEase, Wukong, Black Myth, we're starting to see them figure out, especially China, figure out Western audiences. We know Japan's
just keep in mind,
always...
Black Myth was still very much China.
For
Black
mobile
Myth
too?
was very much China, but Marvel Rivals has been a Western success.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it started but the press that it got here and the focus that it got has been paving the way for, what we're seeing. And even in mobile, LT, you're going to start
Microfun, Whiteout Survival.
Yeah.
Well, then you got
China is just
Genshin and
incredible.
Honkai
Genshin,
and AFK, Journey, and you've got all of these other, crests, and they're your favorite, right? The gacha games are the ones that are starting to get a lot more press here.
Yeah.
Century Games that you said.
Is it
Laura.
Happy based in China? Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
I think the number one, the Block Blast, is also
Hungry Block Blast. Yep.
a China-based game. So to me, that is the oh shit moment. Is this the year where it really, really tips on mid-core and core games versus just mobile?
Yep. this is the year that a podcast gets started in China, and that's where the real deconstructor of fun gets started, right? That now that's the center of exit, not these Western people who think they can talk about the Chinese market.
We don't know shit.
Nope. The next graph that I found really interesting was around costs on PC console, just quantifying that growth that we've been seeing. And obviously with things like Call of Duty up there on top, those were all in line with the type of revenue and doubling down on building multiple games all within their one launcher. But still, you see that steady growth of development budgets for PC console and how dire that situation is.
The notion that this is a dire situation where it's costing so much to make games is a little bit overblown, right? I think we were talking about a Jason Schreier article recently that basically said that games cost too much to make, right?
Yep.
Which is not really that true, honestly, right? Like, it's like, yeah, they cost a lot of money to make, but that's what the customer wants, right? And so
I think that's fine when revenue comes in like that. The problem has been the number of franchises that those costs are going up and the units are not growing at that same rate.
So you can't compete, right? So it's a mature industry in which these big competitors are competing. Similarly to the movie industry, where the budgets for like these fucking Avengers movies was like $200 to $400 million, right? And like, there's no one that can compete with that. And fucking even Warner Brothers can't compete with that shit, But they were driving like $1 billion, $2.5 billion in revenue. It's a fucking great business, right? But that doesn't mean that these movies cost too much to make, right? But so Call of Duty, GTA, Madden, FIFA, all these large franchises are making money hand over fist with these huge budgets, right? So,
but I'm thinking more about the games that are underneath that level and then starting to say, what is the right dev budget in order to go after that opportunity?
What I'm saying is that these smaller developers no longer can compete with what the customer wants.
But you're basically saying like Sony and Microsoft can't compete. Like Spider-Man 2 and Indiana Jones can't compete.
The only point I'll make is efficiencies around building those type of games. Yes, those games have limited opportunity relative to these others, but they should be made in theory, right?
Should it be made with a $300 million budget or $400 million?
No.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where the graph's going for many of those games. If you filter it just to those single player games, and I'm like, that's not sustainable.
What I'm trying to argue here is from the customer perspective, they could give a shit about how much of a game costs to make. Like take an average Fortnite player. They're not complaining how much it costs to make a game, or the average like 55-year-old lady playing, Candy Crush. They don't give a shit how much it costs to acquire a customer, right? They're just spending money hand over fist. It's super profitable because they're great games and they own that business, right? And they're completely satisfied as a customer on this. So I think the only people that are bitching and whining about cost of development are these pundits, right? That I don't know, that want indies or something,
Not sure I want indies. I just want these games to be successful. Like I want Spider-Man 3. I want Spider-Man 4. I want Wolverine to be successful.
This business is this business, similar to what the movies were at the time, and you could have bitched and moaned about the fact that this Avenger movie is exactly the same as the last one. It's just a big action adventure with no plot and no, like whatever arguments you would make from the pundits, but no one gives a fuck. Everyone watched the movie, right? So it is what it is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think
let's go with that takeaway.
It is what it is. No, but we talked about how some of that can be improved, right? You don't need to make a 60-hour experience. You can make 20-hour experiences, especially with the ADD that is our culture and, everything else we have to do. I think there are ways to trim that down in the right places because you still do need, I didn't play Indiana Jones, but I have heard lovely, wonderful things about the experience. You still need the Spider-Mans. You still need those games, but you shouldn't be thinking about, oh my God, I have to compete with Call of Duty, because that's not the right lens, I think, is you have to find your audience and really do research and understand what is it that your audience has to have. And then what is a nice to have? And then, do that. And so maybe it's 100 million and not 200 million. And maybe you do it at a slightly lower price point. We shouldn't be like, nobody can make anything anymore because players expect too much. I mean, look at what Fortnite is. It's a cartoon. Like people don't have to have the most. They don't have to have the most.
It's got a lot of content within Fortnite. It's literally every game in one. But yeah,
I agree. I was looking at One of the early slides is what he considers kind of like I think he called it like the greatest games content in a decade, something like this. And I was looking at some of his choice of titles. And like, honestly, I don't need to see the sweat beads on someone's nose if it means like the story's going to be garbage. And I feel like that balance I almost would put on ourselves, that we have to have this amazing looking, high fidelity, perfect everything. Give me block characters and a good mechanic and a good narrative. That would be my, make it cheaper. I'm happy for cheaper.
It depends on the audience.
It depends on the audience.
You just have to figure out and really understand. And this is where consumer insights comes into play, and early play testing, early evaluation of your concept with your audience can really help. Okay. Continue on, Mr. Tilton.
The next one,
you have more.
In terms of bleakness, was around black hole games. And this is one that Newzoo also talked about earlier on this year. And it's the data point that roughly only 6.5% of playtime on PC console came from 2023 titles. And this is for 2023. And if you weren't Diablo 4, Hogwarts, Baldur's Gate, or Starfield, in reality, all other games on the PC console market that were new and launched in 2023 were fighting over 3.4% share. Right? Which I think is like, from my perspective, is taking the most bleak possible stat on the market. When the reality is that many different business models don't actually rely on eating into playtime in order to be successful. So most premium games, actually, if you look at it as a percentage of revenue instead of a percentage of playtime, still command a decent share. It's not 3.4%. Like, yes, there continues to be black hole games and those players continue to operate them, but those live service games still go out and buy a whole bunch of other games and are still successful. When we look at all playtime, yeah, most of it's going to be sucked up by live services, but those live service players go out and purchase other games and still play other games. And you will not see that on a playtime graph. You'll see that on a percentage of revenue graph.
Okay, well, but then you could make the argument, though, that games that require a significant amount of playtime, like free-to-play live service games, are definitely impacted by the fact that people spend the majority of their time on a few games.
And that point is still there, right? Like on PC console, the nature of trying to build a new live service and pull people away from these black holes is difficult. But then you do that against the backdrop of what we just learned from Marvel Rivals. It is possible to break through there, but the actual bar in order to do it is substantially higher than a lot of the developers past.
Yeah, and so every VC investment in the live services space is going to get annihilated based on his
as
analysis,
we talked about,
right?
Yep.
So
that the cost of launching and reaching that bar is
right.
significantly higher.
So maybe if Matthew Ball had been better at this, like maybe all the meetings with A16Z and the rest of the VC community would have led them away from investing in live services, right? Instead, all right, whatever. All right, moving on.
But yeah, the actual main point of the deck, we haven't even gotten to the main point of the deck yet, is talking about the new growth levers. What stuff could cause growth in the future?
This is where you should basically shut it off, right? You shouldn't even read this part, right? Yeah, there's no credibility here. But okay, let's go.
Yep. So there's 10 levers that I talked about. Non-core markets, UGC platforms, Discord and social, Switch 2, handheld market, AAA mobile gaming, App Store regulation, new game genres, AI, advertising, and GTA 6 pricing. Overall, my sense here was there is one that I can believe and is already happening, and that's D2C. There's 3 that I could probably squint and say, you know what, I could really hope for that. So new game genres. Yeah, I really hope that could be a thing. AI, I hope that can be a thing of raising revenue and raising engagement from our existing core, but we don't know that yet. But then the other one, like GTA 6 pricing, will GTA actually increase their price? Why would they? Do they need to? Right?
Why wouldn't you?
Chris, you got to weigh on this. Like, will GTA 6 actually raise from 70 to 80 as their base SKU price?
I've actually heard 100. So, but like
for base.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't think 80 is out of the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would absolutely say base should be higher. And then, if Phil were here, and I agree, and then you have tiers. that where you unlock a
But
whole
what's
bunch
prevented
more.
this in the past is that they never had to. Like GTA 5 didn't have to raise prices in order to be successful.
Well, also, and this is a one product thing, right? You can't do this across the entire ecosystem. So this is not a growth driver for the market. It's a growth driver for GTA
For them,
and Take-Two,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
but
That
like,
doesn't help the overall
but
market.
if they do an $80 or $100 base SKU price minimum, could that open the door for Baldur's Gate?
No.
and
No.
for
No,
No
Why not?
fucking way, dude.
it's
you
unicorn.
think, you think Madden or FIFA is going to be able to get
No, I
away
don't
with an
think
$80
Madden.
SKU? It's like,
No.
fuck off,
No,
right?
But some of these like massive RPG games, could they not?
No.
I mean, some of them, like the next Elder Scrolls in the next 6 years, sure, why not?
Yeah. Well, sorry, not the
Which
one this year,
devalues it.
but like the next Elden Ring, could it not? Given the scope
No.
and scale of that game?
Maybe, but probably not. No.
Then I'm going to put that one in the hope and a dream category. I'm not going to call that one
Yeah.
completely out. But then again, the other ones, like non-core markets, in his own deck, he's talking about how insular these markets are.
Yeah.
Like the only people that can make that successful is if you're at a massive scale and that insular market becomes enough high ROI to build the bespoke live ops. So no, UGC platforms, Cress, you can scream at this one already.
I think there could be some potential in UGC platforms if
Ethan is going to be screaming.
Mm.
there's like hardcore ifs, right? Like, and this is, I'm going to put Jen prediction model on what Crest is going to say is if there is more pay to win mechanics, there's more microtransactions and monetization, and it's not just customization opportunities.
But
I think
that's
if
already
you-
happening in Roblox. There's a ton of pay to win games in Roblox.
No, Roblox is just limited in terms
Yes.
of demographic, right? From a dispensable income like children have, right? So if they're unlocking spend at an adult level, like over this age of 18 or 15 or
Mhm.
whatever, that is huge potential. But they're not doing that. I mean,
Yet.
Epic has spoken. No.
Yet. So Roblox is putting in a battle royale tech that is going to operate on, I think it's like 2 gigs of RAM. Fortnite, you have to download that thing is like 26 gigs or something like that. If Roblox can finally get some of these more core and mid-core tech platforms available, and they do all of this other monetization, which they have in place, I do think that it may be able to start pulling some older players, some developers to the platform. They got a lot of work to do, though. And then on the other side, Epic's got a lot to do to make sure that they can make money. And then they can be, UEFN is only a year and a half old, which is, and don't count Epic out on what they're able to do to build into that platform. One day, UE and UEFN, Unreal Engine and Unreal Engine for Fortnite, are going to come together. And that could be magic.
How many times have we talked about this? If they limit the monetization mechanics in
That's my
UEFN,
if.
it's a fail.
I
I think
agree.
they just need Snoop Dogg and
No.
Snoop Dogg's son to come in and continue to bolster and make content for it and post about it. I sent this to Ethan, my little Easter egg.
Ethan, please come back on the podcast and show us your battle scars. Discord and social, I don't even think that counts, to be honest. I'm not going to count that one. So there's no new platform happening in Discord that all of a sudden is going to open up gaming. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they did hire a gaming person to
They can
Discord.
hire them. It doesn't make it a
I
thing.
understand. I
Dude,
understand.
Matthew Ball got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go talk to Discord, so he had to throw this thing in there for a bone. I know how he works. Come on, let's get real. Who the fuck cares about Discord from a revenue perspective? Like,
correct.
how
They-
can that be one of your 10 potential?
Agreed.
That's absurd. Absolutely absurd.
The other one is Switch 2, which we talked about.
Well,
Right.
that's
I
a
think
good,
that's
I mean,
business as usual. I do not think that's a lever of growth.
correct.
It could be incremental for third party, maybe. I mean, compared to Switch 2, Switch was a disaster for third party. So
Did you
Yeah.
see his slide on that? That was
Yeah.
really
Yeah, the
interesting
percentage that
about.
was going to Nintendo. Yeah.
Oh, it's what, 50 or 60%? It was more than half,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
So then becomes like
50 or 60, it's like
so-
75.
75 first party games that perform well on Switch, correct? That one?
It's
Yeah.
like 75%
Yeah.
Nintendo, probably even higher overall for revenue.
And then
It's terrible.
handheld market, which we covered enough in this podcast around it being much more but incremental than about creating a new market. AAA mobile gaming.
Oh,
which,
for Christ's sake. Oh, you've got to be out of your damn mind.
What does that mean?
So this one is like the news this week. Resident Evil 2 sold 100K on the mobile platform. Like AAA mobile gaming is not a thing. Cloud streaming to mobile is not a thing.
Oh.
Not going to redo that one. And then App Store regulation, we already talked about. So yeah, overall, my report card here is, I think 1 is a sure thing. And I think 3 to 4 we can hope for. So then that's about 50% there. What do you guys think? What do you like? Do you agree or disagree with any of these growth drivers?
I was thinking at more like, what else do I think he's missing? And I feel like, now correct me if I'm wrong, I'll be honest. I think I read maybe 75% of these slides. I did my best. There were a lot of slides. The only thing I do not think he gave enough credit to, as he talked about a little bit, was the percent of eyes that were looking at short form video. I don't think there's been enough research or interest or anything really predicting what's going to happen with the intersection between gaming and short form. For me, if I was going to look at what I think should be, we could look at what should also be looked at as hopeful, is how that's going to morph and change over time. And is it going to be a new platform? Probably not. Like, it's not, I don't think it's going to be the metaverse style huge, this is the whole new thing. But I do think it's going to change form, and I do think it's going to affect gaming more than we give it credit for. And the only other thing, I think there was one slide where he talks about, we touched on it earlier. I've been bullish on China as a kind of a innovation hub for a while. Once they started moving into the casual mobile space, and their games they were able to make were outperforming Western developers for Western audiences, I do think that we're going to see more innovations, definitely in casual mobile, from Chinese-based developers, 100%. So for me, there's more shards of hope than Mr. Ball covered.
I don't even really know where to start here, more than what I've already said. I'll just say, like, I think what he's missing, generally speaking, I agree with him on the ad stuff. I think ads are going to become more and more critical for growth to monetize the non-monetizable. And I think that's the angle that he really didn't pursue, because he doesn't really understand games all that well, right? It's like the fundamental problem with free to play is that they don't monetize very well in the West, right? So the conversion rates are like 3 to 5% max, right? Versus Asia, where it's like in the teens to 20%, right? So that's like the lever of growth that's a potential, right? But we haven't seen that over the last decade, really, except for a few notable exceptions like Fortnite, right? So I think focusing on building games that monetize better, because we still have not, on console and PC in particular, we still haven't really mastered monetizing outside of sports, so non-sports games. So I think there is better opportunities potentially for monetizing AAA gaming. As I said, like mobile, like conversion needs to be higher, so there will be better mechanics to actually monetize the audiences that we already have in the West. Would actually be huge. Like, imagine if you went from 3 to 4% up to like 8 to 10%. I mean, it would be insanely bullish for the industry, generally speaking. But obviously that takes different mechanics and different innovations around getting customers to spend. And then I would also just reiterate the fact that I don't think mobile is nearly as bad as he thought. Actually, mobile may be the only growth vector in the next 3 to 5 years, because after this year, with a tough comp from Switch 2 and GTA, we may not see growth for a while. You know,
PC console, yeah,
because we're going to be in the back half of the cycle, right? And so like we may not see actual growth until the next cycle happens, and see what demand is for the next consoles. So, but unfortunately, I kind of agree with his overall sentiment. I can't really disagree with what he's saying. I think it's really ridiculous that not one growth driver in his top 10 has anything to do with the fucking metaverse, which he wrote a whole goddamn book about 2 years ago, right? Like, let's be clear here, right? I mean, like, I don't want to keep going on and on and on about this, but dude, he said that this was going to be $1 trillion business, right? And it wasn't like 20 years from now, right? So anyway, so that's not part of his growth vector anymore 2 years later. So what else did I want to say? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough business, you know, for the next 3 to 5 years, right? We're basically single digit growth type numbers across PC, console, and mobile. So yeah. And I have to say, like, after this report from Mr. Matthew Ball, I don't think his rate card's going down. There's no way he's going to be out there like pitching this nonsense, you know, to the A16Zs and the rest of the VC community and everyone else. with this negative report, that this is not going to help him at all, but we'll see.
All right. So a couple just quick takeaways from me before we wrap up. I just think that we need to understand that the past doesn't always predict the future. And the way he laid out some of the slides really shows that. And I think we have to be mindful of all these predictions and everyone throwing, it's basically people going all in on things that are just predictions. And so that was number one. And I think we need to realize that the game industry is in a completely different stage. And we need to realize that we have to put our big boy and girl pants on. We're not the young pups with the growth spurts that are going to be these huge numbers anymore. It's going to be kind of slow and steady. I mean, we're adulting now. And as an industry, we got to realize it's these small optimizations. It's finding many different things to make better rather than, I don't know if we're going to unlock like one thing that's going to propel us. And so, because of that, we have to look at where our competition is. We used to think that it was, a GTA or these other things inside our industry. I think our competition is a social, Laura, to your point, is social video, TikTok and YouTube. When you look at all of the charts of what share of time and share of wallet is starting to go from our core audience to these other places. And so what are we going to do to keep people in our environment? And how do we do that? I mean, if you have a child, you have seen this firsthand. Chris, you were just saying your daughter probably can't live without her phone and without TikTok. She could probably live without a lot of the games. And so not that we need to make our games more addicting, but maybe we do. So the one that I honed in on as, the growth vector, in Cress, I was a little bit shocked that you agreed with me, was advertising. UA is back with the, how AI is working. And I think we need to find player-friendly solutions to integrate advertising in a better way. How do we do it non-intrusive? How do we have new ad formats? How do we have more collaborations, more sponsorships in a way that players welcome it? They welcome it. They're okay with it in IRL sports. How do we make it okay within gaming? And so that's kind of the one that I wanted to end on. I think of all of those 10, we got to figure that shit out.
I guess I just want to reiterate, I think part of the problem, and I've read this before out there when these predictions come out, is that the negativity around the space kind of drives the negative predictions, right? So when it was like the positive nature of his writing and what he was talking about in 21, 22 was because the industry was really positive back then. And so it's kind of like ebbs and flows based upon what's going on in the industry. So perhaps, 2 years from now when things are better, he'll write a more positive research piece, right? We'll see.
Yeah. Notice, Chris, VC investing was not on his growth vectors.
I know. There goes the rate card, dude.
All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with us for an extra long episode, for an extra long 220-page report review of Matthew Ball's work. See you all next week.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.